YouTube, new family. What is going on? Daniel back for another video. I am here outside for this one. I'm actually cooking something inside, but had a great call with my coach, mentor, Mike, and reflected on a bunch of different things that I didn't see before, couldn't understand before, and just gets me in good energy. I had a call before with another coach, but not the best energy. It was actually very an ego, and we could actually speak about that because after those calls and also reflection I had today, I realized that there's only two energies in the world, and you right now are watching are likely in the first I'll mention, but you can't get to the second, which I am in and working on daily to stay in. And that is number one, ego, number two, spirit. So for those in ego, those that are in lust right now watching, you essentially have this way of living where you're constantly in your head. You're thinking of desires, thinking of feelings that those desires will give you. And you right now are attached to this idea or thinking that each woman you're with is going to give you a feeling that you can't get otherwise. You're searching for this, basically this like dopamine hit. And I was there, so I can tell you exactly where you're at and whatever level you're at. But essentially you think that each experience you get, whether it's with one girl, two girls, three girls, different locations, different countries, different types of girls, different body types, you think adding all these variables to the same thing you're doing, which is essentially exercising lust and putting something outside of yourself or above yourself. People do it with money. You unfortunately do it with women. Not unfortunate. I mean, it is what it is. Everyone has their devils, but essentially when you're in that, you're simply an ego because you're allowing your mind, which is, has a lot of power when it's used correctly. But when you're just thinking and creating feelings and stories and all these scenarios in your head and thinking it's outside of yourself, you're allowing it to really remove your power, which is your spirit. Your spirit, when you're in spirit, is where you get all your power. Where you don't have to think, you just simply follow your conscience and do it confidently because you know it's coming from where you don't see. And simply being aligned and staying there is you find your only job with the habits I mentioned in the previous video, and also removing, certain things or staying away from certain things. You could say the world, the distraction that the world gives you with the parties, the low frequency environments, the vices. It's staying away from those things and realizing that your purpose will only flourish, come out when you are in that space long enough and start to live in spirit. But when you're in ego, like I've been, you start to create these stories. You start to, think it was a person that hurt you, that got you to where you are of chasing. You have these unhealed or untouched stories. Like I said, most men that are in lust have it or have this desire to keep chasing or needing more and more. Flyer. Because they think that the person that hurt them is going to see them, that the person that hurt them, that girlfriend, is going to essentially, look at where they're at or how much they've grown. They think they've grown, and see them with the status or the girls or the money or whatever it is. You're doing it for something external, and you're essentially allowing, allowing your mind to control something that is not controllable. You thinking you control how someone else sees you is all the ego. It's all things that are created that you have no control over, and the devil keeps insisting for you to think about, for you to focus on, and you're putting all this energy into how someone perceives you or how the world's going to perceive you when you get this or have this experience or can show it to these group of friends or this community like I was doing, and I thought I would be the man and the king and I would get applause and validation. Don't get me wrong, you get these like these worldly highs, these dopamine hits, but what you actually do is destroy your spirit and destroy who you actually are. And when you live the opposite way, you have the world actually going against you. And I made a post about this on my story, my Instagram, you can follow, put it below. But realizing that the closer you connect with the truth, the fountain that's going to bring you everything you want, all your desires you have in your heart, and not these flesh desires of threesomes and, two girls, or all these scenarios you have in your head, not the flesh desires actually from your heart. When you connect with him, he's going to bring you everything. But the closer you connect with him, and the more you want to connect with him, because once you realize that it's the truth and you have this feeling of connecting to something externally, which is lust, but you switch it around, you have that same feeling, but for something that you know is eternal. It's not temporary, like that girl for that one night, or that party, or that weekend. You realize that the relationship you have with him and who's going to bring you everything once you're aligned with him is what you actually look for. And it's something that it's difficult to explain when you're in that place right now where you're simply chasing lust. But when you realize that you're being used by what you don't see, whether you like it or not, and it's your ego, which is controlled by the one below, then you can begin to ascend and get out of that. And it's all realization perspective. The higher you go in terms of your frequency and energy, the more perspective you get of what you're doing on this plane, earth, world. And when you're in it, like you probably are right now watching, you only see the other desires you want, the other women, the other parties and stuff like that, and you think it's more and more that's the answer. But it's actually removing and getting to the place where you can operate in spirit. Like I said, there's two things: ego, spirit. So spirit is someone that essentially is flowing, doesn't have these thoughts, or have this habit of thinking about everything. You can see the biggest example nowadays with people trying to get all the answers from ChatGPT. I mentioned another video about this, and thinking that if they have all the steps laid out, then they can actually take the step, and that's simply fear. When you're in ego, you operate in fear. When you're in spirit, you operate in faith. So that means you don't see the whole way, you see the next step ahead and you take it. When you're in fear, when you're in lust, you need to be certain of what's happening. So you only would maybe go out for a result. You only want the sex of a woman. You don't only want that experience you want in your head. So you're simply focused on I need this. You're attached to it. If you don't have it, you get like frustrated and angry, like I would. I think 3 days was the most I can go without it, without getting like antsy, like basically like someone not having a hit of heroin. And it's crazy the mind games you get and the stories you play in your head that you think are real. But once you elevate past that, so right here, your ego, past that, spiritual, and you're operating from your spirit, your soul, where you're here to actually operate from, and what God wants you to operate from, because He has a purpose for you. But when you operate from there, you start to get new thoughts, new ways of looking at the world, and you see how you like basically look down on yourself and how you were before, and realize like, why am I lost and thinking it's this, or thinking it's porn, or thinking it's masturbating, or thinking it's like all these feelings you give to something external. Women, you think it's like multiple women are having a rotation of women, and that's fake. It's all something that you don't realize until you get out of it, or you get so far in it that your conscience gets you out. And I luckily was able to get out due to my conscience being in it for 3-4 years. I realized that I was going down basically a path to nowhere. I see like a roller coaster going 90 degrees with no tracks, so you're just falling to your death. And it was as a result of, say, fulfilling the desires, the ones that I thought I needed, but also seeing that it's damaging to what I want it to be. I was someone who always had a good conscience, good heart, and when you're in that place and simply operating from your ego, you realize you start to hurt people around you. You start to create this image of yourself that's not real, it's temporary, and you start to really believe that you're above certain things, above the women you're sleeping with. You're just using them superficially anyways, but you think you're above them, so to put them down, you start to like use them, manipulate them, cheat on them, be in open relationships. You're with multiple women. You see them as wholes, really. You see them as wholes and a number, and not actually for a person, and someone that you can spend time with, learn from. And actually, funny enough, the things I learned most about myself were with women, but I always neglected that and thought it was myself and my ego. And it's crazy the rabbit hole you can get in, but essentially I want to give you the two ways that you can operate. So there's ego, like I said, you're in your head, you're thinking, you're creating stories, or you're in spirit, which is the hardest to get into, the hardest to stay in, because the world wants you in ego, wants you in low frequency. If you look around you, everything is a distraction. Everything is, you need this, you need that, you need the external. Why aren't you chasing this? Why don't you have this? You're constantly looking back and forth. You're comparing, you're competing. You're anxious because you don't have it. You're doubt because you won't get it, and you're never aligned in peace. When you're aligned in peace, you don't need anything. You don't need the next level. You don't need that next car, the next girl, that next trip. You just need the process and the answers you're getting from above. And that is God speaking to you. And that is what I will give the world and do through my coaching, because this is not for the 95 or 90% of the world that just lives for the flesh. This is for those that realize that that's not the answer, if they've gotten tired of it and know that they're beyond that, because everyone is beyond that. They just need to see that they're an ego and the way out is spirit. The way you were brought into this world spiritually, as a kid having no fear. As a child, you basically followed your heart. You know, you woke up with no fear, not thinking, not trying to plan, not trying to, organize things in your head. You simply followed what your intuition told you, your conscience told you, and that was God speaking to you. But over time, fear got put on you, and then, from your parents, your environment, and then as time went on, more and more fear, and you start to mold yourself around these fears. So when you're spiritual, you have, in the spirit, you have no fear. It's simply you being guided. You're feeling good. You don't need anything else external. And as a result, you get everything you want. So that is what I want to get those into that are watching, that are simply living for the weekend, for the night out, for the next girl, for whatever experience you've seen a movie or you think, are programmed to think that that's the way. It's all false. I've been there for 3-4 years. You can look back to other videos on my channel and see that I've lived everything that you right now are chasing. And I can tell you sincerely from the bottom of my heart, it is not something that will get you what you want, which is peace. Every man watching wants peace. That is what you realize you want at the end of the road. You realize you want someone that you can just share yourself with, and not have this anger you have in your heart, or this vengeance you want to get towards somebody because they hurt you in the past and you made this story 8 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever it is, that you think is real. You're clinging on to, so you can, have an excuse to keep chasing and saying, oh, this person, it was this girl. If it wasn't for her, I'd be a different person. No, it's the responsibility lays on you as a man to change that story, forgive that person, forgive yourself, and then move forward. But like I said, it's all in a place where you don't see. It's not something I can tell you 5 things to do or 5 things to remove. It is things to remove, but it's much deeper than that. And it goes, to a place where your life changes forever, because the way you operate changes forever. And that is what I will give to those that work with me. And God has, shown me this path through much needed self-development with myself, through different coaches, especially Mike, and helping me see who I really was and the purpose I have here. So, I was put through all of that. No regret about it. Everything was perfect. But I was put through all those experiences to see the devil at the end of the day, know where he is, and get you guys out of his path to grow into the people you're supposed to be. So that is what I'll be doing, sharing much wisdom on this channel whenever I get it. And if you guys want to connect with me, you see me on Instagram. Comment below as well how you're spending your weekend, what your thoughts are on what I said, and most importantly, if you believe you're meant for something greater than just the next desire or the next chase that you see online or at a mall or whatever it is. You're putting something above you, which is women, this feeling of lust, thinking they're above you. And when you get that, then I can feel that feeling. That's all fake. I'm not saying they're below you, but everything is within your reach as long as you get into that plane where everything comes from, which is where you don't see. But anyways, if you stay till the end of the video, much love. Appreciate you guys. Like I said, you guys are the new family. And that's what I'll be calling the community, people that come to the channel and grow with me. You'll see me grow. You'll see me reach levels, desires that I have in the heart. But don't focus on, because I simply want to live in harmony, aligned, and in peace with the one who brought me here, and the one that has given me the energy, the purpose, and the passion behind making these videos and sharing with you guys what I've learned and what I can help you out of. So God bless. And until next time, as always, keep killing it.